How's everyone doing? Wasn't Abby wonderful? Okay, for those of you that don't know me, I get to wear these now to read. So for those of you that do, welcome to Getting Older. Hi. When Kim asked me to be a speaker today, I was sitting in the San Francisco airport. A little more than a month ago, I was ready to come home after a month's stay. My brother had died of cancer, and I was able to be out there the last 11 days of his life and be right at his side when he left this place and he went home. Given the story was filled with pain, humor, and the biggest blessing God had given me since the birth of my kids, without hesitation, I said yes. I came home and went into a coma. 5 days, I averaged maybe 3 hours of sleep a night for a month, and jet lag hit after that. It was a fun time. I met with Kim the following week, and she gave me the overview of this conference and told me the segment that she wanted me to speak on, the teenage years. Okay, here I was exhausted, but honestly, I was thinking, huh? Huh? No way. The story of my brother's death just, it didn't seem to fit, and neither did that experience in my life or that one. So I began to pray for God to lead me, and lead me quickly. She had given me a deadline. It was fast approaching, and I was having to step back into my life here. Being a single mom with teenage girls, there's a lot to do, especially after a month's time, and I had just started a brand new job right before I went to California. So honestly, I didn't have the time. If one of you guys figures out how to clone people, let me place my order for 10. Send them to me. And I went to Rockwall, and I was sitting by the harbor, and I was praying, and I started writing. I was thinking, okay, this is what I can talk about. This seems to fit, this seems to work, and okay, God, that's easy enough. I thought I had it, only to realize I didn't. God had other plans. Isn't that so like Him? 5 days before the deadline, when I was finishing tweaking what I wrote, a question Kim had asked me flashed through my mind, and it stopped me cold. I'll get to that question later, but here I was, finishing, and on time. It was really cool. And I started reflecting on that question. And I thought, oh, crap. God, please, no. Yes, I can go there. Yes, I can share that. But I honestly don't have the time to start from scratch, so let my fingers fly across the keyboard tonight. My week, volleyball games, gotta go here. I don't have time. Even though I knew where God was leading me to go, I wasn't compelled to write that night. Instead, I sat underneath the looking glass of life. Blinders off, no rose-colored glasses, just pure transparency. I began writing 2 nights later, and I realized that this could quickly go into a 6 to 8 week Bible study, and I know Julie Dundi's taking notes because she's like, yeah, we will. But because of the time constraints today, they've only given me 45 minutes. There's just a few key points that we need to get to. Remember being a teenager, or for you teenagers that are here, or for the moms with teenagers, how teenagers. It's the time of dreams. It's the time of goals. It's the time where you start thinking what you want to be when you grow up. You start thinking about college. Will I go to college? It's the time where we move from dependence to independence. Did I just click off? Yep. I did. Oh, I'm back on. So cool. Wait a minute. On. Off. Okay, God. We start making choices, and we have to be responsible for those choices. We think we can do anything because, after all, we know everything. Oh, come on. It's the time we spread our wings and fly, but if we're also a little honest, we're also a little fearful. What if we don't make it? what if? We don't want to tell what we've done or what we're planning to do, especially tell our parents, because, after all, they don't listen, they won't listen. We don't think we're going to get their love, their support, or their approval. Teenage life also contains, let's face it, drama. Living with two teenage girls, I can attest to drama. We've had a year of it. Not all from them, but so much so that I changed my password on the computer to no more drama. For those of you with texting capabilities in this room, I will be going home to change it. I know how creative my daughters can be, and I can just see what they would do, and Zoe's looking at me. If I go home and find my computer's been changed, I know who told. Some teenagers have little drama, and some teenagers, if you look up the word in the Webster's Dictionary, their picture is right there. And you just want to say, grow up. But more oftentimes than not, a teenager's life also contains trauma. To some, the trauma may be a pimple before the big date, wearing the wrong outfit, a bad test grade, losing the big game, someone just looking at them wrong. To others, the trauma could be teasing, being laughed at by peers, family members, adults in ministry, or other adults in authority over them. It could be dealing with a stalker or a death of a loved one. It could be their parents' divorce and their families being torn apart. It could be verbal or emotional abuse. It could be physical or sexual assault. You get the picture. But in both sets of teenagers, the trauma can be life-altering. My life has been filled with experiences that used to make me a little envious of people with normal lives. I've had to deal with the death of my parents at a young age, been shipped around the nation from one family member to another, made horrific choices as a young adult, more errors in judgment as an older adult, as a mother, and as a wife. 2 years now divorced after a 17-year challenging and abusive marriage. Children, now young adults themselves, consequently dealing with the trauma they suffered from that. And now I was at the side and was there when the one man, the only man in my life for my entire life, when he died. I've ran the gamut. I've laid waste 10 commandments. I'm sure the sinners turned saints in the Bibles have nothing on me. I've personally known those feelings of abandonment, rejection, being a failure as a woman, a wife, and a mother. My world has been turned upside down more times than I can count, not knowing if ends were going to meet, would there be food on the table, Satan painting a target on my back, trying to end my life several times, the last time 3 years ago this month, in fact. And again, being there with my brother. But in the midst of all those life experiences, God was there. It wasn't until later, with some even years later, did I realize how much did I see his divine presence, his protection, his intervention, his grace and his mercy, his healing and his restoration.